Good evening, everybody. We are so happy to see you and be with us at the XJAZZ Festival here in Berlin. And it's a great honor to present and share this time with you this evening with some wonderful, wonderful women composers, music producers. My name is Jocelyn B.Smith. Some of you all know me for some of my activity here in Germany and Berlin, supporting homeless and giving people a chance to find their power through their voices. Some of you know me. I had the great honor to be able to sing The Lion King for the Buena Vista film, König der Löwe. And then also it's an honor to sit here alongside of my colleagues as a Bundesverdienstkreuzträgerin, the Federal Merit of Honor. And under that motto, it was called Culture Connects. And that's why we're here, giving you HERSTORY. I'd like to introduce to you, to my left, Julia Hülsmann. Julia Hülsmann, we would say iconic, acclaimed, an incredible composer, music producer in jazz, jazz pianist, in German Pianistin. We'll get it right today. Further left, another one of my beautiful colleagues, Miss Lorna Hartling from the Deutsche-Symphonie Orchestra, an incredible viola instrumentalist, music designer. We've had her on several concerts and productions with us, Expressions and Shine Your Light. Further to my left, we have Kathy Milliken. Kathy Milliken is one of the founders of Ensemble Modern, but I'm going to give the place and the time to all of my colleagues to share their stories and their journeys with you. Julia, give the ladies a shot.
All right. Yeah, well, as Jocelyn just said, I'm a piano player, I'm a composer, I'm a jazz musician, and whatever that means. Jazz, to me, is freedom. The freedom to express what I want, and to go wherever I want. And actually, it's all about music, and this is why we're here as well. It's all about music, and not only music, also about our identity as women, as musicians in this world today, with a history, a her story. So I have different bands. I'm playing a lot. I'm on tour a lot when there's not Corona, and working for ECM, the label, publishing there. And but I have lots of different projects, and I'm really glad and very honored to be part of this wonderful community.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you that we're going to have German and English. So maybe for some of the German guests, you might not have understood. Julia, we'll just ask her just to share it again, maybe.
Okay, oh, ich glaube, das ist schon angekommen. Ich denke, das wird schon okay gewesen sein. Ja, wir machen es immer so hin und her. Deutsch, Englisch, Denglisch.
And so we're going to go further left. Lorna.
Hi, my name is, excuse me. My name is Lorna Hartling, and yes, I'm a violist. I'm originally from Shaker Heights, Ohio, a small suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. I came over here from Cleveland to perform with Leonard Bernstein long time ago. Yeah, I don't need to say when exactly, but in any case, I performed in the north of Germany with him, and that was my first experience with a German orchestra. I can't really say just German. It was a very international orchestra, and it left a very large impression on me. And I had this hunger to continue to do that kind of thing, to play with many different people, all backgrounds, in unity, to make not only music, but to draw a picture, to create an event for the public to experience. And that dream came true in the orchestra that I am in right now, the Deutsche-Symphonie Orchester Berlin. And I've had the privilege of doing that for almost 30 years now. Being here is a wonderful bonus for me because I love jazz, and I'm a classical musician, so technically I can't play jazz, but I've always dabbled. And when I came to Berlin, among other things, I saw posters of this woman, Jocelyn B.Smith, and thought, oh, wow, she's a jazz musician. I would love to meet her. Maybe someday I can play with that woman, Jocelyn B.Smith. And I had been taking my daughter to swimming classes Saturday mornings, and I was a little bit late signing up, and so I had to sign up for the only time left. That was 7:45 in the morning on Saturday. And I sat there every Saturday half asleep, and there was a woman there next to me. We both were kind of half asleep, and for weeks we greeted each other with, good morning, morning, and said nothing. And then maybe 2 or 3 months later, kind of early, yeah, a couple weeks later, yeah, what do you do? I'm a musician. Yeah, me too. Oh, yeah, I understand. Then finally the question came, do you play or do you sing? I said, well, I play an instrument. Well, what do you play? I play viola in the Deutsche-Symphonie Orchester Berlin. She said, I've been looking for you. And I said, what? And she said, I'm Jocelyn B.Smith. And I just about dropped everything that I had in my hands because I had been searching for her. And so that's how we met.
At the swimming pool.
At the swimming pool.
With our kids.
With our kids. And I'm so happy we did. And since then, we've had quite a few wonderful experiences.
That's right, that's right, that's right. And we're going to go further to our left to Catherine Milliken.
Well, I have to say, after a story like that, I mean, how can you do better than that? That was just such a beautiful story about connecting up. And I mean, it was meant to be, right? You know, there you are, going to swimming lessons. That's a
I'm
bizarre
sorry
thing,
you had to wait after the swimming pool.
No, it's a lovely story, and it's about stories, isn't it? It's her
Right.
story, so it's your story right now. And I mean, years and years ago, I never would have imagined that I'm sitting here with all of you, which is just the most unbelievable honor, and I'm thrilled that we're going to be having much more to do with one another.
Yeah.
We'll continue. I never thought I'd be writing for orchestras. I never thought I'd be in various countries and doing and making community music projects. Lots of things I never thought I'd be doing. And I think I owe this to my mother, who's a sort of a pioneer, and my grandmother, who's a pioneer. And yes, I come from Australia, which is, a very young country and, full of people just doing things for the first time, it always feels like there. I came over and studied oboe and piano. And as Jocelyn said, I was a founder member of Ensemble Moderne, and that led to playing a marvelous piece called Surrogate Cities, in which Jocelyn B.Smith sang. Oh. And I never thought I would be meeting with her in this way that we are now. Julia, I was very fortunate to be the front band for a concert that Julia did. I don't know if she remembers that, but I had at one point I had Julia's Shakespeare CD in my hand, and I was so incredibly excited by that CD. Wow. So there you go. And Lorna, I've just gotten to meet recently. So there you are. It's all sort of made in heaven. I have the feeling. Yes.
Kathy, tell us about Ensemble Moderne. I think a lot of our audience might not know that.
All right. Ensemble Moderne was a group that started in the very early 80s, and it was at a time when everyone of my age group was wanting to go into an orchestra, but there was this small group of people who actually didn't really want to. And I was one of them. I mean, I'd played youth orchestra for many, many years, but I had so many interests. I was an avid theatre goer. I learnt ballet. I wanted to be in plays. I wanted to do so many things, yeah, as well as play the oboe. Now, the oboe, I don't know if you know, but the oboe is all about concentration. It's got a reed that is very thin. And the oboe itself requires, quite a concentration of air columns. So, here was this person sort of the intense concentration to play the oboe, and actually in life wanting to go out. So anyway, the ensemble was, a group of amazing young musicians, and we were green. I mean, we were learning by doing. We were learning as we went. Nowadays, young musicians have got a huge knowledge of contemporary music already. But what we were fortunate enough to be able to do then was actually, in this learning by doing, we were actually learning about what was behind the language of music. And we were sort of making it with the composers and sitting with composers and finding things out. And it was just a time through, each decade of my being with them, because I was with them for 26 years, which was a long time, was just, I wouldn't even say it was every year or every month of learning something new. It was every week and every day, and it didn't ever stop being new. And, sometimes I thought, when will I have the feeling I can sort of do this, And it got to be sort of, I got to feeling used to doing something new all the time. So I think that's given me a push in life.
I like that, where you say doing something new in life. And when we really get into her story, I think that's how I had approached everybody, where I said, for all of these years, we've been listening to his story, history. And what would it be like to do something new, to land something on the planet, get a new discussion, her story? What would the world be like when we got a chance to recreate the language, recreate the consciousness, recreate the movement that has become so stagnatized, so stiff, so violent and aggressive? What would the world be like if women recreated it? And then, of course, with us being musicians, I reached out to jazz, classic, and contemporary to get this beautiful mixture of ideas and backgrounds of these women, these thinkers, these creators, and to get into a form of exchange to find out what that world would be like expressed musically. So maybe you want to take a take on that. How does anybody want to jump in? How did it feel when we started talking about herstory?
I think what was really fascinating was to, hear about everybody's way of starting, because, this is about a germ. This is about germinating. And, we had artworks. Julia was holding up an artwork. And then Lorna came along with her viola and immediately played. And then we were looking at poetry and telling stories, and each one had done some beautiful research into, you know, various incredibly iconic women who'd, you know, been really amazing for us. So, you know, just that process of tapping our way in and not minding the process, not minding the time, taking the time that we wanted to actually let this flower start was how I felt, was wonderful.
Ich habe gemerkt, dass ich eigentlich sehr gut finde im Moment, dass es eine Aufmerksamkeit gibt für Frauen, die nicht gesehen wurden. Und das ist was mir sehr wichtig ist und was für mich auch ein Teil von HERSTORY ist, also die Geschichten von diesen Personen zu erzählen, aber gleichzeitig auch, und das hat das dann so angerührt bei mir, meine eigene Geschichte auch besser zu verstehen und auch zu verstehen, wie welche Rolle oder welche Wichtigkeit die Frauen in meiner Familie ein paar Generationen zurück spielen. Weil wir sind ja alle mal ein Produkt dessen. Wir tragen die Geschichten unserer Vorfahren mit uns. Und bei mir ist es, glaube ich, sehr stark beeinflusst von der weiblichen Seite, von der mütterlichen Seite. Und meine Oma ist zum Beispiel in Brasilien geboren, lustigerweise, als Deutsche schon, aber auch irgendwie als Brasilianerin. Und hat da was mitgenommen, was ich, glaube ich, auch, ja, das ist auch ein Teil von mir. Und die Geschichte von deutschen Frauen sind, glaube ich, auch nicht immer einfach. Ne? Da gibt es auch viele sehr schwierige Geschichten, mit denen man umgehen muss, die man verarbeiten muss. Die Kriegsgenerationen haben, da ist so viel passiert, da sind so viele Energien aufgekommen, also so viele schreckliche Dinge passiert, dass da sind wir nicht unbeeinflusst von. Ich bin da nicht unbeeinflusst von. Und das ist, glaube ich, nicht einfach, das in Musik zu packen und da was draus zu machen. Aber das ist was ich mir wünsche mit diesem Projekt, Geschichten zu erzählen, die es, glaube ich, sehr viel auf der Welt überall die ganze Zeit gibt. Von Gewalt, von Liebe, von flüchten müssen, von aufgefangen werden, von, kann man gar nicht alles aufzählen, aber das ist das, worum es mir geht. Ja, ich glaube, da mache ich mal ein Komma.
Comma, then I'll jump in, because those journeys are really important. And that was the whole concept about us getting together, you know, with the HERSTORY. Those journeys, not just the journey, but what happened on the journey. What was the impact of the journey for that woman? How did she experience that journey? Psychologically, so spiritually, so geistig. How did she come to her decision to, in English we say, to weather that journey? How do you say that in auf Deutsch? So umgehen, you know.
Zu verarbeiten?
Yeah, zu verarbeiten, absolut. You know, and that's what our music, when we present the music from HERSTORY, we're trying to vocalize through music, the language of music, to share with you what each of these women have embodied, verkörpert, verarbeitet, because that's where the discussion has to begin. And the moment that we can have more women on board discussing the impact of these journeys, challenging, less challenging, I think then we begin to create our own language. Wir fangen an, unsere eigene Sprache zu sprechen. And giving the time and the love, just the geduld, the patience to be able to develop this language and to birth it and to bring it in the world. So this is a very intense project when we finally get this music together to go that deep. Lorna, you also wanted to...
Yeah, I was thinking along the lines of the energies. You know, we have the feminine energy and we have the masculine energy. And over the past, last 300, 400, 500 years, the masculine energy has been in the driver's seat, so to speak, has had the say, and the feminine energy has been more or less that silent support system, and been able and made that masculine energy, cleared the way, you can say. And when we study the different energies in a deeper sense, and when we look at indigenous traditions, we see that the energies are still there, but they're used differently. That the masculine energy is the support system, and the feminine energy with the intuition, with the emotion, with the abilities that transcend so many atmospherical it just transcends so many things that you don't need this brute strength. Right. And that is actually, apparently, what should be leading. And that's the way it was in the Indian tribes. The grandmother led the tribe. Everybody was still, and they waited to hear what the grandmother had to say. And then the young men were ready with their muscular strength to reinforce or go and do whatever the grandmother said needed to be done. And I think there's a great shift that's happening now. And we are able to represent that shift in music. We as women can show on a whole lot of levels what will be done, what needs to happen, what can change and needs to change in order for the things that are so devastating to our world today, to bring them to an end, to change them, and to turn them around.
Well, to be able to turn it around means that we as women, we have to give ourselves permission to dive in our stories. We have to give ourselves permission to walk through those shadows, walk through those broken pieces. I think one time we were talking about that wonderful art in Japan, that where you have the cracked vases, but they seal the vases with gold. And the gold is actually what every woman in the world has. And it's her being able to give herself permission to touch that gold, to feel that gold, to taste that gold. And for her to walk in her life, take steps in her life to express, to give that gold a voice. And I think this is where we're trying to go right now. This is the movement. This is the wave or the tsunami that's getting ready to come in, right? So we want to bring that through. I guess the best language that we have is music, right? Somebody want to take me up on that?
I think the hugest luxury is to begin to feel that, you know, the expression that one has is one's own, and that is an exploration of feminine and masculine. I'm not quite talking about the same thing as you, because you were talking about a huge, global, amazing, where's the world coming to and what do we need in the world, but just on an everyday level of expressing oneself, I think it's extremely wonderful, you know, to feel that one has the freedom to, you know, be whatever and however one wants. And I think, you know, we are starting to become very fortunate, and we are starting to find our way in this way. You know, it is, we're leaving certain sort of traditions behind us, and I think we're very lucky to be that free. And of course, what helps us to be that free is, you know, I always think of that very iconic book of Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. Immediately women start to, you know, be able to have some sort of feeling that they're not worried about being employed, that they have equal chances, and, you know, it starts to get very exciting, because then, you know, then you have to come up with everything, and it doesn't, you know, just because you're a woman or just because you're a man, if you've got a great idea, it's a great idea, you know, and it starts to get very exciting to have that level of fair play of self-expression, as well as, you know, helping to shape that into a community of people who are vastly different and diverse, and to sort of develop the skills for just really going along with that diversity and difference.
Absolutely, and not leaving out the women who have achieved so much, fighting with those corporations, glass ceilings, that they also can give themselves permission, because they run this race. We don't have to run this race anymore. This is where the tsunami is. They can give themselves permission to exhale, because their health, our health, is at risk. Our health is so at risk when we're running this race that has been dominated and actually sent out, you know, programmed, or we've been following under a very masculine rule. We have to run things different. Our health is so busy.
And we have to realize that the victory of those individuals from 80 years ago, from 30 years ago, from last year are all of our victories.
Right.
And that can carry us, and we can embody those victories to carry us, like the tsunami you said.
That's right.
On and further.
That's right.
I just want to say that I think it's sort of very important to completely acknowledge at the moment during the pandemic, you know, the extraordinary difficulty and shocking difference in living situations between people in Western world and non-Western world. So, you know, I don't think we're ignoring that by any means. And but I do think that what we're actually honing in on is, within this world of difference, first world countries, third world countries, we're also looking at women and what we are actually experiencing, and wanting to find out stories of women in many different places and many different countries, and we're wanting to share those stories, because that's what we do as artists.
Right.
We share the stories, and we give them, you know, we make them heard.
That room, we create that
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
We create that container.
Mm.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of you for being here. Our fourth HERSTORY, Leona Berlin, she's getting ready to perform, and I'm going to be meeting her soon. But I want to say thank you very much to Kathy Milliken. Thank you so much, Lorna Hartling and Julia Hülsmann, for coming on in and having this talk. And we hope that we planted some new seeds where your garden can begin to grow. Listen to yourself. Take love, some care for yourself. Give yourself that space that you can create the greater version of yourself. And maybe you'll be surprised. So much love to you. And now you can follow me into the other room where we get together with Leona.
Jocelyn B.Smith.
Oh, yes, she was here too. We love you. HERSTORY.